Hello everyone, it's Lady Shadana. Thanks for coming back and joining me in my video adventures. Today we are hanging out. We're hanging out and we're doing things and we're going to look at some stuff. And I am inside my quarry decoration, which looks, kind of crazy. But these particular blue blocks, I don't know if I've ever talked about them. They are fluid placeholders. They're kind of a really neat block, and it's what we builders use when we want the system to leave water in a spot. So yeah, they're kind of neat. So you may see them around. If you've never thought about what they are, that's what they are. So yeah, hope you're having a great day. And we are today going to continue our little tour through the Cavern style. And this time we are taking a look at alternative buildings and the start of the mega halls and things like that. So these nice big square block doohickeys are the alternative connector huts. And they were something, I just had this random idea of, when I was thinking of how I can utilize some of the spaces in Cavern, just to because I want to have all of the spaces actually have some sort of use eventually, and not just be decorative placeholder kind of areas. So these ones I actually took a full connector space itself and fill it in. And these, so as I've talked about before, I often like to start at level 5. I build the whole thing and then I break it down to level 1. And in this case, you see that these are the standard placeholders. And the reason why I have these, and they're from level 2 onwards, is because sometimes if you're playing with like a mod or something like that that has really nice blocks that you want to use as roads or anything like that, you can do that. You can, after level 1, you can change up the flooring to whatever you like, and when you upgrade the buildings it won't actually change them. So that's something you're probably not aware of that can be done, and there you go. So this particular one is the warehouse. It's what I actually, I'm a big fan actually of the warehouse, and I think that's really nice. Looking at the ceilings here, these may be different from what you've seen. I changed them, it wasn't all that long ago. It was when these light blocks were brought into DO, and I decided to make some updates to the ceilings. And so when you play with Minecolonies, it's always a really good idea to be in the most up-to-date version of it, because little tweaks like this will be in the mod. So there you go. I started with the warehouse because it just made sense to me to start with the warehouse, and then I continued on to what do we got here? This would be the barracks, or no, is it the barracks? Yes, it's the barracks. So same as when we talked about the default barracks, it has the main barracks hut itself, and then it has the inserts of the barracks towers inside, and so that's what that looks like when it's not actually built inside the barracks. And this would be the tavern. Again, the tavern only goes up to level 3. And let's see what we got. The restaurant, because I figured you should be able to plop a restaurant just about anywhere you wanted. This is the Mystic site, and this is where I think where I first put in the seahorse decoration, and it's got a nice like hot bubble bath, and very zen in here. I really quite like this one. And some people don't like diorite. They think it looks weird, but I like diorite. I'm sure you figured that out by now because I do use diorite quite a lot. What else? What do we got next? This would be the alternative graveyard and the alternative. What is this one? The alchemist? No. Oh no, the hospital. The alternative hospital. Again, I thought you should be able to plunk a hospital down just about anywhere. So the hospitals have to have, I believe it's 5 beds in them, but I generally do put more than that in there, and that's a choice that can be made by the designer as to how many they want to put in. The only thing is that we have to have a minimum of 5 in there. And what direction am I going? Where am I going? What am I doing? Okay, so at this point, so I'd finished these, and that's when I got inspired by some of the other builders for the mega halls. And the first one that I built was the Herder's Hall, and one of the big things with the Herder's Hall is the way that herders are right now. The herder itself has to have the space for the animals in the same hut, which is why I ended up coming up with this, where the hut itself is upstairs and the little pasture area is downstairs. It is on the list of things that will be in Minecolonies eventually, that you'll be able to designate separate pastures, and so you could have like one big pasture that has like all of your animals in it, and the various herders will be able to go and just work in the one pasture. So it'll be interesting when that happens, because we designers will make changes. So what I've heard is that we will still want to have a small space for animals with the hut itself, but we'll be able to have secondary pastures, potentially, like what we've got with the fields and or with the farmer and with the plantation, where you can have the fields in with the main hut itself, and then you can also have separate. You can have up to a maximum number of them. So it may be that we'll be able to have just additional animal pastures that they'll be able to go in and check out. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so that's where I started with I believe I started with the stone one, and then I just created the alternate versions of it. You know what, actually I probably started with this one. I gotta be honest, because I love beige stone. I don't know what it is, something about beige stone just makes me happy. And yeah, so that was the first one I did. And then what did I do? I had going the wrong direction. That's what I did. So I was playing around with these on a single player world, which is why they're kind of in a funny order. Then I came up with so this is the Farmer's Hall, and again the different versions of the Farmer's Hall, and the Alternative Town Hall. So this one was where I had been talking to some people, and they had where they didn't want to build a big standard or default town hall. They wanted to be able to just sort of go down into the the mountain or whatever and put a town hall inside. So I did come up with this one where you could actually do that. So I like options. It's something that I enjoy very much. This was where I decided we should have an alternative courier that can fit into the intersections and stuff, so you could plop them down anywhere without taking up a huge amount of space. And then these were what happened when I started pulling the huts out of the mega halls. So these particular ones are the herder huts, and as you can see, they are mostly placeholders, and that is because I did have the different mega halls themselves with the different types of materials. So in order to make that work, the majority of these huts are actually placeholders, so that they don't actually, you know, overtake whatever materials the hull is. And so yeah, that's what they look like when they're all pulled out on their own. So they don't have a lot in the way of blocks in the hut itself, but you wouldn't want to build this by itself to like save materials, because it would look absolutely ridiculous just stuck out there by itself. So yeah, that's what these look like when they're all pulled out on their own. And yeah, this took a lot of figuring out to work out how these were going to be built, and then a lot of testing. So testing, and then finding out that I like forgot a placeholder, and you know, things were being removed, and so coming back and making sure you don't have placeholders in the wrong places. So it's a lot of trial and error. I had several players that that were amazing, that were like so excited to like test everything for me. So as soon as I built something and created the schematics, I was sending them off to several different players who were testing everything for me and getting back to me. So it's been a team effort to create all these. Let's see what's next. This would have been the alternative builder's hut, which again, I thought you should be able to just plunk one of these down, and when you found that you were missing builder's hut in a space. And then this would be the huts that go inside the farmer's hall. This particular one would be the composter's hut, where it has the sort of little office workspace that goes under the stairs. So these are actually the stairs in the hall. And this would be one of the fields for the actual farmer, and this would be another one of the fields for the farmer. So again, making sure that we've got placeholders in the right spot, so you're not overwriting any of the other parts of the hall or any of the other huts. So it is a lot. It is a lot to build these, for sure. But it's been so fun learning how to make it all go together. So many placeholders, a sea of placeholders for this. Like, this is the farmer, and each of it gets a new field that comes in on every level, and at the next level that whole section is just placeholders, so that you don't overwrite the field and whatever plants you have growing in the field. So there is a lot of testing, a lot of testing that goes into making these, for sure. And then what did we do? What did we do next? We did the Mystic Hall. This is actually, like, even by itself, this is one of my favorite halls. And honestly, if I was going to just build a basic hall to use for my own personal use, this would be one of the ones I would do for sure. I think this would actually, like, if you wanted to build like a big, like, more than like the base 10 halls that you need to get all of the buildings into a colony, I would build one of these and plant trees in here. So I would have this, maybe I would have the foresters or the forestry hall, and then next to it I would have this hall, and I would actually just have my forester working in here. You could also have more beehives from the apiary that are in here, so your beekeeper could be looking after hives in there and in here. So yeah, I would use this to grow trees and stuff, and I think it would look really, 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 really great. People have asked me about doing just plain base mega halls for personal use, and I don't know that I would put anything extra into the mod itself. I would just build whatever hall you like the look of, and just don't put any huts in it. So like, for example, like using the the herder's hall and thinking about how it's already got all of those kind of like room areas built, and use that for your personal space. So that's what I would do. I would just pick one of those. This is the Enchanter's Hut, and I know I've talked about it before, where people have asked, how does the Enchanter get upstairs to work? Well, he's magic. He's magic, and he can just think himself upstairs. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Looking at those the water placeholders that I had talked about earlier. So this is one where I could have the water coming down, but it's you know, you have to make sure that it's not splashing out all over the place. So in this case, I was able to just use those because you're building this in an open space. So if you were building something and there was already blocks there, a water placeholder will leave something either solid or liquid, or add liquid to that space. So so they're a really interesting block. This is the MegaHall Mystic site. You definitely do need to find yourself a lush cave to get up to the level 5 on these ones. But I think they're so nice, and it's really fun because when you put the spore blossoms in there, you get the really pretty effect of the little magical moats all over the place. So I'm a big fan of this one for sure. And the graveyard, this one is really interesting because sometimes people will be like, well, how come the graves aren't there when I actually build it? And it's because the named grave items that are in our schematics are there to say this is where a grave goes, but when you build the hut itself, they come in, I don't know if it's that they come in invisible or if they just come in as a coded block or something like that. But anywhere that one of these is in the schematic, it's where the gravedigger can put one, or the code puts one when a citizen dies or something. I don't know quite how it works, but that's why they're like placeholder blocks for that. So this was when I, people have been talking to me about actually like utilizing some of the space inside the town hall, because my town hall is massive, and again, I really wanted to start making sure that all of these spaces in a colony are actually used for something, actually utilized and useful. So I started trying to come up with ways where I can add a house and a builder's hut and everything into here, but be able to get into the colony without a huge amount of work. So that's where the MegaHall version came from, and I know I've talked about this many times in many of my videos, where you build this MegaHall version and it comes with the signs of where to put everything. So it lets you get into the mountain, into the colony, and not have to actually build that first level town hall right away. So I was really very pleased with how this worked out, and again, when you look at this, you've got all of these placeholders that carve out where those two huts go. So this would be the builder's hut, and this would be the residential, the MegaHall residential hut. And I've also in a recent video talked about maybe making a change to this where the upstairs can have an option. So it will be maybe like left open, and then you have a decoration controller, so you have the option of adding in what I've built as a decoration, or you can utilize the space for yourself. So that's something that is on my list of things to take a look at, because I think, again, that's a really great way to potentially utilize the space for yourself, but have the option of what I did. These are the huts pulled out from inside that mega hall, and again, I build the whole thing all together, and then I pull out the sections, and then I figure out what has to be placeholders and work it from there. So that's what these look like when they're not actually inside the mega hall. This one is the military mega hall. So here you go. So here's what I'm saying. So I built it this way. So I built the whole thing, and I keep a version of it here on the server so that I can take a look at how the whole thing looks all together. And anytime I need to make any changes, quite often I'll go to the main full completely built hall, and I'll make the changes there, decide how I want it to look, and then I will go make changes to the individuals. So this is where it's kind of broken down to what you start with, and this is what I know it will end up looking like eventually, because the various huts inside overwrite some of the blocks. So this one is a little bit different, where I do actually have huts overwriting the base blocks, and yeah, so that's how that works. And again, here's those huts pulled out and looking very almost boring all by themselves, but covered in placeholders. So this is the actual like barracks pulled out, which looks kind of funny, I gotta be honest. And so there's that, and then these are the barracks towers pulled out separately because there wasn't enough room on that pad to do them. Then we had the forestry mega hall. So this one and this one I've talked about before, where it's actually just got this little space on either side here where you can grow the trees, and it works quite well. So when we look at this, when we look at the beehive or the apiary, I originally had it where it was on the floor, and it ended up, to me, it just ended up looking kind of like an igloo. It didn't give me that bee feeling as much, so I decided I was going to put it on the ceiling. But as you see, it has all of these placeholders underneath it, so it doesn't actually touch anything that's under there when you upgrade it. So there's that. So that was one where I built it one way and then I totally changed it, and we actually I had to leave this one in the mod for a little bit and then let people know that it was going to be coming out. And I think we removed it when we switched from something to something. It was between two major kind of versions anyway that we made that permanent change. And then, so this was one of the ones where again I've got the huts, you know, with all of these placeholders to make sure they're not affecting the other huts. And then what do we have next? What was this? What's this one? Oh, the Scholars Hall. And yeah, I was quite happy with this one. It you know, looks a little bit different, utilizes a little bit more wood in there and a lot more of that diorite. I do love my diorite. Big fan of it. And a lot of people do ask, where is the nether mine? It's upstairs in the Scholars Hall. So it's up there. And another thing that people ask me a lot is they see endstone coming in the what's the word I'm looking for? Materials list for various huts, but I don't actually like the look of endstone, so I'll have it in there, but I'll usually hide it somewhere so that it's in there as a material, but I don't actually have it visible for when you see the finished version of anything. What do we got next? These are the huts pulled out of the mega hall itself, with all of its various placeholders, and yeah. So sometimes you'll see that I will actually leave the stone on the side or something like that, and that's because I use a lot of art pieces, and if you leave the stone there, then the art pieces are more likely to stay where they belong when you build them. Sometimes I will switch those over to solid placeholders, and sometimes I will forget to do that. This one, that's the nether miner, and I like symmetry, so you've got the at the other end you've got where the portal goes, and so I had a fake portal on this side to make it balance it all out. This one is the Scorched Hall, and it's got so much glass and so much lava, and it is one of the halls where a lot of the huts in here you require more university researchers and stuff to be able to build them. So it's got the deep slate and stuff, because I was like, oh well, by the time you get to building these huts, you'll have you've gotten down to where the deep slate is. But it's possible that I actually did that too soon. So I think I'm going to, and then somebody asked for a full deep slate version of it. I think I'm going to do another version of this with regular stone instead of the deep slate, and see if I can maybe do something other than the glass. But I think I have to keep the glass, but I might do a regular stone version of it to make it just that little bit simpler to get it built to start. And then again, all of the various huts pulled out and separate. This was something where I really, in my playthrough, my Let's Play, I've realized how ridiculously much iron I've utilized in it. So many iron bars everywhere. So I've got it on a list to take a look at maybe reducing the amount of iron bars and things. So I do tweak things as I get feedback either from myself or from other players. This is the alternative residence, which I built specifically to go into the lower levels when I started building that. Here's the guard station that goes downstairs into the lower levels, and this is what I'm going to use as a basis for any other huts that I decide I want to do downstairs. So I'll probably do another alternative of the delivery man that can do the same thing, as well as I think I'm going to do the plantation, because it has all those new fields which can go into the intersections and connectors. So I think I'll do a plantation that can go downstairs and utilize that. This is the alternative mine, which goes into a lower intersection. And then we've got the geology hall and the various versions of that, and all of the huts that go into the geology hall. And again, this is one where I've made a bunch of changes, where I've reduced the amount of, reducing the amount of lanterns and things like that, and I still have a few more changes to make to that. The tasty hall with all the various things that go in it. All of the various things that go in it right here pulled out, and then wow, until you actually take a wander through here, you forget how much stuff I have in here. This is one of the halls that's kind of in progress. I've stalled a little bit with deciding how I want to finish it up. This is sort of my ideas for the residential hall with the 5 different residences in it. I will finish this eventually, but right now it's just on the list of things to keep working on. And this would be the residence itself pulled out while I try to decide how I'm going to finish it. The storage mega hall with the 8 super awesome couriers in it, and again I'm going to probably make another alternative version of this that doesn't utilize so much or utilizes different materials for these. And I think I'm going to actually switch out all of the stripped warp stem to the warped wart, because I'm learning how ridiculously much wart you get when you are when you're harvesting the actual stems in the nether. And this was where I decided that the supply ship and camp needed to have a builder in it, and so that's what that is. So that's everything. it's a lot. And as I said, before, when you're looking at from the end of my alternatives and mega halls down to the beginning of them, and comparing that with the actual base default huts, it's like I'm so much more on this side. It's crazy. And when we look at any other styles, I am the style that goes the furthest this way, but it's been so much fun. And I really didn't want to split it into different styles, because they all do work together. And so then I'll be adding more of these build paths going this way as I continue building more things. And I think in the next episode, I have a list of things we're actually going to go, and we're going to be making some changes. So we're going to be doing some tweaks and bits to various buildings in the style, and you guys will get to join me for that. So I hope that you are having an absolutely fantastic day, and that we see you again very, very soon. Bye-bye.